And as more and more information comes out, the more and more we have to ask ourselves the question, were we 100% right in going ahead and saying, you know what, this entire thing looks like a load of BS, and guess what? We were 100% right.
Grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to the side, I'm telling him to get off me, and he won't get off.
He grabbed me and got me on the bed. I was fully clothed and he was naked at this point, and he held me down and he was just aggressively trying to, you know, me.
I was like, oh my God, he raped me.
So a BBC chauffeur-driven car picked you up at the age of 16 to take you to Russell Brand's house?
Yes. He told me that his management had told him, his agent, not to be seen out and about.
His management had advised him not to be seen out and about with a 16-year-old?
Yeah, because they said it wasn't a good look for him and for his
Well, we
career.
now have a statement from Russell Brand's agents, and it reads, Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denied the allegation made in 2020, but we now believe we were horribly misled by him. Tavistock Wood has now terminated all ties to...
And
Catherine is welcome to
no,
see
she's not. It's not. No, don't do it. Trust me, don't do it.
You did say at the start of the year that you were considering attempting celibacy. Is that something that you have continued with?
What time do you finish work? If you're ever so confused, Fifi Box, pop yourself down on my knee and see if we can't get you pregnant. Fifi Box. Dun, dun, dun. Come on.
Oh my God, he's kissing me!
All right, Liz, goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's been really a wonderful experience. See you later, Liz.
Russell?
All right, take care. Russell, I can undo your bra just like this.
What I was saying earlier about the fact that he used to be the establishment. When he was the establishment, there were no accusations made, no documentaries, no exposés, no articles, nothing. The second he started to speak the truth, all of a sudden he's under attack. Do you think that is a coincidence?
I'm going to be talking about not only the allegations, which by the way are going to come later on in the video towards the back half, but I'm also going to be previewing this video with exactly what it is that the media oftentimes loves to do when they want to get somebody, let's just say, they want to get the public against somebody. We're going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing primarily, however, why it is that nobody is believing the media in this case, even though Mr. Brand is kind of an easy mark for them, given his past, given how much they've promoted him. And also, one more thing that we're going to be discussing is why it was that they went out of their way to demonetize him from YouTube, and why it is, once again before, that he is such an easy mark. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. Now, what you guys saw there was a bit of a montage of some of the things that have been going around, and I even decided to cap things off with a little bit of Andrew Tate, because he obviously decided to weigh in on this as well. Now, guys, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, you didn't post on Tuesday, and recently I haven't been posting on Tuesday, and don't worry, we're going to talk about this very extensively, but I wanted to take today to kind of get a little bit more information so that way I could follow up on this decision, so that way I could better kind of address how it is that they actually do this. And what I mean by this is how exactly they go through what we call a smear campaign. Well, there was this particular person a while back, somebody who had some power, well, not really true power, but was definitely very influential and stuff like this, where that kind of explained this. And even though her drunk, incoherent self, I got to kind of censor myself here with my language, even though she's very drunk and always incoherent and definitely old and decrepit, she kind of explained how they do these things.
Versionary tactic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now,
also, at the same exact time, leaving out some other stories, of course, that include what exactly Mr. Brand has done for the past, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 years outside of his public persona.
not really a romance with Russell, but you had something with him, right?
Yeah, we had a little encounter back in 2006. I went to his flat. We had a little bit of a fumble. We got to crunch point, and I'm like, no.
And you're a comedian.
Yeah, and I wasn't back then. I was a model and a dancer. And yeah, so he was fine with me. He was really polite, and I felt safe with him. So.
And when you said you didn't want to go any further, how was he then?
He was fine. There was no problem at all. Everything that happened was consensual. And then in 2015, I was very involved in a political campaign that Russell Brand was leading, and he was helping women keep their social homes. So if
and you never heard any rumours?
Nobody said to me, "Oh, be careful around Russell Brand." I drove a van that had the truths on the side. It advertised his cafe. He was doing a lot of good work. So I got to know him as an activist and a good man. So, you know, I'm not going to automatically believe anonymous people coming forward, especially having been in the entertainment industry my whole life and knowing how manipulative and narcissistic some people in this
You
industry.
just heard somebody who's normally very incoherent suddenly be very coherent for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds. By the way, they utilized Brand back in 2012 when he was at Occupy Wall Street movements, just to kind of let you know that what Andrew Tate was saying at the very end. Don't worry, we'll get to Tate here in a second because he did sound off on this right here, and of course I believe he's 100% correct. Brand at one point in time was a part of that establishment. He's actually talked about it on several occasions that he was actually with the Hollywood bigwigs and stuff. He got to be around certain people. And of course, his very, very promiscuous lifestyle, which actually was a creation in large part by the media because they actually promoted him. They put him on every single show, MSNBC in particular. And of course, if you remember on the Bill Maher show, he decided he wanted to, well, Real Time with Bill Maher, he actually confronted MSNBC journalists. I will link that video in the description box where he basically called him out for being dishonest. Fact of the matter is that nobody took Russell Brand serious until recently. His following on YouTube, and now he's more of a truth seeker, is obviously going to raise some eyebrows to these people. And to go on top of this, given his very, very promiscuous past, it's not that hard to gin up some allegations on him. However, the thing about these allegations, and of course YouTube did in fact demonetize him before any proof came out, let's just go ahead and say that there's a lot of people who've got their eyebrows raised on this for this very reason. I mentioned this in Monday's video. Now, with that right there being said, though, let's go ahead and go through the process of exactly how it is that they have done this, they've coordinated this, and how they will continue to utilize this, and of course, even look at some of the allegations themselves. This is going to be a relatively lengthy video. Now, here's the deal. Brand's talent agency has also dropped him. He's being canceled even by the BBC, which is also very odd too because the network Channel 4, the ones who are supposedly releasing this documentary on Brand and what Brand did in his past with these ladies, they're also the same exact television network that had a show featuring nude grown people in front of children. I mean, am I just sensing a little bit of hypocrisy? I mean, is it just me? And to further kind of clamp down on what Nancy Pelosi was saying earlier, you know that guy Tim Ballard, you know the guy that the film Sound of Freedom was based solely upon his actual work? Yeah, they had decided to file some sexual misconduct stuff at him as well. Some allegations are being thrown at him right now, and of course, he recently just launched a bid to run for the Senate in Utah, seeing how it is that Mitt Romney is not running for re-election. Tim Ballard decided he was going to step in. Makes you almost wonder exactly how it is that they do this, but as Nancy Pelosi said before, the idea is to manufacture something, basically sensationalize it and merchandise it and get it to the media, because the media obviously knows that people are going to look at the headlines and not actually read the articles, which is very, very funny too, because if you actually go online and read the actual article itself, even some of the more liberal commentators will actually list the details. Like I've always said, the devil's in the details. You should always read the article, and even though I don't typically read the article out loud here, I typically read the article before I get online and kind of boil it down and kind of summarize it for you while leaving the article in the description box. Make sure you guys are always doing that, because in their attempt is actually to get you to look at the actual, how do I say, their attempt is to get you to look at strictly the headline and headline alone, as Sargon will explain.
His girlfriend would come over. She wouldn't want to have sex. He'd hold her against a wall or against the bed and do that.
Yeah.
So that would be that. But again, there is no evidence of that. It's just the allegation. So if you provide us evidence,
but there
proven,
is going to be no evidence. That's the thing. There's going to be no evidence. So okay, fine. But anyway, so obviously it's on all of the front papers. Just look at every single paper.
This had no consequences when they did this in the 90s to a bunch of celebrities that ended up dead.
Yeah. So anyway,
Really, they're trying to sell papers, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a reason we're talking about it, which is it's the way the media works in this country, which is
and in other countries.
Well, in some countries, you don't do this. You wait for the courts to decide whether or not the person is guilty, and then the press are allowed to talk about it.
But there isn't even a legal case against them yet.
I know, and that's what I mean. Like, this is, in my opinion, sorry, I almost broke the mic there, almost slander.
Yeah, I agree. We were only talking about it because they're talking about it.
Yeah.
And they're here like, man, rapist, accused.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that kind of...
In the big font, Russell Brand raped me across the entire front cover.
But
and then
small print,
allegedly.
But the thing is, right, I'm not prepared to give the media the benefit of the doubt here, because they know exactly what they're doing when they do this. They know that most people literally not buy their paper, but at least walk past, see the headline and go, Russell Brand rapist, right?
Yeah.
That's new.
Name allegation.
Exactly.
That's all you need.
Exactly. They know, and they also know that if they put this on the front page, it's not necessarily going to sell more papers. It is definitely going to destroy Russell Brand's reputation with the average person who's not politically engaged.
That's true.
They know what they're doing, and they're all doing it all at once. Why? Now, I would suggest...
You know what they're doing. The idea is simply to get people to look at the headline and automatically assume that you were guilty. The minute something like this happens, the minute that something that of this nature gets thrown out of there, you are going to be considered to be guilty. Okay, it is just the way that it is the court of public opinion, even though the court of public opinion is really, in a lot of ways, not really a true court at all, because I'm pretty sure that Mr. Brand's probably going to be found innocent of all this, which, by the way, also begs the question... This all happened years ago. Why did it not get filed then? I've been saying this for a very long time, and I oftentimes lose female viewership for it. And quite frankly, I don't care. You're never going to change my mind on this. If something happens to you, you need to say it right then and there. I understand. I get it. I feel for you why you may not say something right away. But the reason, but when you wait, it automatically makes people think that you may not be fully accurate when you come forward. Oftentimes, you think about the Me Too allegations and how Me Too got started. But then you look at how many fake accusations were thrown out there and how many falsities there were in a lot of these allegations. And it makes you wonder if maybe your movement did not get fully diluted and did not get completely corroded. I mean, there are guys who are scared to death to even talk to a lady because of that whole Me Too thing. Just walk up to a woman on the street, touch her on the shoulder or whatnot. Next thing you know, you've sexually assaulted her. I mean, when you start throwing allegations out there and people start to notice it, they notice that you're abusing it, and as a result of it, any types of claims that come forth from ladies automatically get diluted. You wonder why it is that people were so quick to say, we need some proof. But then again, at the same time, though, it should be innocent until proven guilty. But why Brand? Why Brand? Well, as I've said before, Russell Brand has been touching some pretty hot stuff here in the recent years. He's been talking about... let's go ahead and roll this.
The allegations. I gotta say, right off the bat, it seems kind of strange. So I do want to play for you this clip here because this is sparking conspiracy number one. Simon Atiba says, many are now saying this video clip might be why Russell Brand is being attacked. Watch. Let's play this clip from Real Time with Bill Maher. This thing's probably got, 50 million views because it's being reposted everywhere, but here you go.
Would you... If you like, actually...
You just get the fuck out of here. This is not the place.
He said he's going to give them facts.
We love facts. I love facts.
I wouldn't have mentioned it. I'm English, and you know that politeness is our fundamental religion. But they do pertain to this issue, so may I say some of them? If they inconvenience you, I'll stop saying them. The pandemic created at least 40 new big pharma billionaires. Pharmaceutical corporations like Moderna and Pfizer made $1,000 of profit every second from the COVID-19 vaccine. More than two-thirds of Congress received campaign funding from pharmaceutical companies in the 2020 election. Pfizer chairman Albert Bourla told Time magazine in July 2020 that his company was developing a COVID vaccine for the good of humanity, not for money. And of course, Pfizer made $100 billion in profit in 2022. And may I just mention, finally, and this is also a fact, that the American public, funded the development of that. The German public funded the BioNTech vaccine. When it came to the profits, they took the profits. When it came to the funding, you paid for the funding. All I'm querying is this.
Yes.
Is if you have an economic system in which pharmaceutical companies benefit hugely from medical emergencies, where a military-industrial complex benefits from war, where energy companies benefit from energy crises, you are going to generate states of perpetual crisis, where the interests of ordinary people separate from the interests of the elite.
And he hit the nail on the head with the hammer. People are saying, like, that's it right there. I'm not going to go. I think it's silly to say this one clip did it. Because I don't know, when's this clip from? Do we even know when that show was? I'm pretty sure it was from a while ago. But I will say, it's that kind of sentiment that's going to make you a lot of enemies.
There's also a book out there that covers this. It's called Mafia Democracy by Michael Franzese. I know that Michael Franzese, people love to look at him because of his career in the mafia and how it was that he kind of got himself out of trouble, even though he still went to prison. I read his book recently. A lot of very, very good information in there. So I'm just going to go and kind of recommend that. Pretty easy read. Take you roughly about 2 days to read it. Make sure you guys go check it out. But Franzese talked with us as well. Not only did he talk about the stuff that Russell Brand was talking about, he also gave other examples of how it was that politicians and, of course, businesses enrich themselves off of lobbying and all kinds of other stuff. Basically showing you that our government, for the most part, has turned into practically one great big giant mob racket. Which also kind of, kind of lends credence to what Andrew Tate said.
Will not stop unless he's swinging from a tree. They attack relentlessly and they do not stop. They will not give up. They're rabid dogs. It's ideological. It's not about rational. They will just attack endlessly. Tristan, do you understand there has been an article of one form or another calling us bad people every single day since January the 1st? It's been 9 months. Every day they try and get you and I to commit suicide.
Well, it started before that. It's been 2 years, really, of bad articles. 2 years.
2 years of endless attacks and smear campaigns. They have no care for the mental health of the people they attack, unless you're Hugh Edwards.
You're on their team.
Then you're on their team. After 2 days, we talk about his mental health, and he has to be let off, even though he committed an actual crime. Or Philip Schofield. The first question they asked him in an interview was, how are you feeling? I remember when Lucy the Bumbaclut Williams came and sat herself in my house, disrespectfully. I allow her into my house, comes and sits down in front of me and starts attacking me. First question, are you a rapist? Sorry, young lady, who raised you?
She ain't that young.
She ain't that young. Where'd you get your manners from? What's wrong with you as a person? You begged me for this interview. Every day I was in jail, you were begging me on the phone. Please make me...
Which is strange, too, because Brand is closer ideologically to these people who are accusing him. He's closer to the establishment when it comes to ideology. I mean, he's definitely a man of the left, but his positions at one point in time were much, much closer to what Obama was preaching, closer to socialism, closer to communism. I mean, Brand is a guy of the left. He's gotten popular with the right because he's changed his platform to straight up truth-seeking and, of course, giving people the true issue, giving people the true story. And because he's recently made some remarks about Trump that were kind of seeing a bit of a positive light, and the fact that he does have a very big platform, I mean, it is kind of convenient that they would do this. By the way, this documentary on Channel 4. Like I mentioned before, a lot of hypocrisy here. I mean, these are the same people who expose little kids to genitals, as you guys saw the blurred out images, of course, that came from the Daily Mail. Wouldn't surprise me if YouTube finds a way to stymie this video before it actually gets uploaded. Of course, I'll know better tonight whether it will actually be posted or not. It'll probably get ad suitability, meaning that it'll be limited. But then again, at the same time, I did say I wanted to talk about this, and I did say I was going to follow up on it. So once again, here we are. The thing is this right here. This entire situation looks like it's pretty well coordinated, obviously, to smear somebody, to obviously keep somebody bogged down. And the mere fact that YouTube, of course, has went ahead and demonetized his channel should tell you that they're obviously trying to stymie his income. And then Tim Pool made a very, very good point about this. Let me just kind of go back to him because he obviously brought some things up that, once again, people oftentimes don't think about.
Or do. I think this could simply be, if you are outside the establishment and mainstream narrative, you are not allowed to be in the establishment and the mainstream. So this could be for a lot of reasons. One, a super chat just popped in. OMG Puppies made a good point saying that he's anti-war. He's anti-Ukraine war. And for the UK, I mean, they're more serious. They're sending depleted uranium tank busters, I think they're called these. And Putin said that these are basically nuclear weapons. So you've got someone in the UK doing that. They excise him from everything. This is their way to reduce his influence. I don't think they care about the aftermath. They're basically saying, He should not be on mainstream television. He should not be on Netflix, BBC, Channel 4. He should be in the gutters of society along with Alex Jones and you name it. They should not be platformed, as it were. How do you get someone off of a network? If Russell Brand is featured in these TV shows, they generate attention for him. And that brings people to his podcast where he outright says, we should not be funding war. We should not be funding big pharmaceutical companies. Okay, you got a problem. Well, you can't just sever the contracts you have with them unless you have a morality violation. Now you have your morality clause violation against Russell Brand, impropriety. And it's like, why would his talent agency drop him overnight? It's like, come on. There's not a conviction. It doesn't matter. This is their way of saying we are removing him from polite society because we don't like the things he has to say.
Talked about morality things, like if there's something that quite frankly does not match the morality of, say, a certain organization, they're going to find that the minute something where it comes out, they're going to go ahead and drop you. Fact of the matter is that Russell Brand, and like I said, I disagree with this man on many things. He's very, very anti-war. And of course, right now, of all the countries who were going at it with the Ukrainian war, and don't get me started on that right there, I try not to talk about this because those videos always find a way to get limited on YouTube. Fact of the matter is this right here. England is one of the countries who's pushing us the most to get involved. They're one of the countries that's pushing us the most to actually put troops on the ground. They've also, like Tim said, sent depleted uranium over there. And of course, Putin is saying to himself, look, this where it actually looks close to nuclear. I mean, you could probably argue that that right there is the case. I mean, this right here is some pretty powerful stuff. And at this moment in time, he, like everybody else, is kind of saying to themselves, you know what, man, wait a minute. We don't feel like going to combat. We don't feel like going into a conflict right now. We don't feel like getting into a border dispute when we right now have a massive border crisis of our own. We need to be securing our own borders. And even though Brand lives in England, you probably wouldn't think that he would be that concerned at first. But then when you actually look at the fact that England is getting much, much more involved in it, yeah, he's definitely going to be concerned. But what do you do if you're the establishment? You gin up these allegations. But you know what's really funny, though, is that of all people, Piers Morgan actually had one of the most rational takes on this. Let's go ahead and roll this. It's going to be kind of long, but make sure you guys stick around.
Obviously horrifying claims. And if they're all true, then Brand will deserve every punishment meted out to him. But at this stage, they remain claims, and Russell Brand has vehemently denied them. Whatever you think of him, he's entitled to due process, every bit as much as his accusers deserve to be taken seriously. These are grave criminal accusations which now demand a police investigation to determine if they meet the legal bar for charges, prosecution, and a possible trial. But some of the language we're seeing online, including from many journalists, describing the accusers as victims and survivors, implies that Brand's already been convicted of a crime when he hasn't. The court of public opinion is not an actual court, but it behaves like one, and that's inherently dangerous, as we saw with the likes of Sir Cliff Richard, who was wrongly accused of sexual assault, had his exemplary public reputation destroyed in the process until he won a legal action against the BBC and cleared his name. The consequences of the accusations are already apparent. Brand's book deal's been shelved, his tour has been postponed, his management team has dropped him. Clips like this about him are going viral.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'm only flesh and blood. I've got instincts.
Oh, okay.
What do you think that gesture means, the way you're touching that bottle? What does that indicate? What is that? What's the subtext of that?
I think we gotta go to break.
You need to lose that ring, Mika, because it don't mean nothing to you.
There's chest hair.
It's a landscape.
It's a landscape.
What's going on your landscape? A little bit of sunburn. Look at him go. Look at them nipples. He could lactate any moment. Right, Liz,
We
goodbye.
were. Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's been really a wonderful listening. See you later, Liz.
Russell.
All right, take care.
Russell. I can undo your bra just like this.
Liz, I love you.
You've thrown me, but
Don't worry.
I love that you're throwing me.
If you're ever so confused, Fifi Box, pop yourself down on my knee and see if we can't get you pregnant. Look at his wonderful haircut. He must be gay. Look how sensitive and vulnerable he is. He must be
Strict
gay.
to moral code after the Me Too movement and Time's Up campaign, it's easy to watch all that and be appalled by Russell Brand's apparent immorality. This is not a referendum on his moral compass. By his own regular admission, he was an outrageously promiscuous sex addict who revelled in his incessant womanizing. Brand openly boasted about it. He was saluted for it by many in the media. It didn't stop BBC Newsnight using him as a political Svengali. It didn't stop The Guardian giving him top billing on stage with Owen Jones and publishing his column for many years. It didn't stop Ed Miliband seeking his endorsement for Prime Minister. It didn't stop the New Statesman making him a guest editor, nor Prospect magazine naming him the 4th most influential thinker in the world. Channel 4, the BBC and a slew of media executives will have serious questions to answer if it turns out that Russell Brand has indeed been the ruthless predatory criminal that these new allegations suggest. So will all those righteous publications who made him a demigod? But what we cannot do is preemptively convict a man of heinous crimes like this without any legal due process to establish the cold.
And what's even more baffling is that the media itself, in a lot of ways, kind of created this. They kind of created Brand in a lot of ways. They promoted him. They put him on MSNBC every chance they got, even after the whole Osama bin Laden thing where he showed up dressed up like him. I mean, it was the media that kind of ran with this. I understand that the media reports on this stuff because they think it's their job to do this, and maybe they're doing it to shame people. But after a while, they'll use the people that they shame and then turn right back around and sensationalize them to get them additional views, to get them additional ad revenue. Oh, when I hear that they've decided to take a guy who was promiscuous at one time, heavily promiscuous at one time, but then turns right back around, stops being promiscuous, begins to turn his life around, seeks actual spiritual guidance, and then goes on to get married and become a family man, and then starts speaking out against the establishment, them doing what they're doing, this type of stuff right this doesn't really surprise me. Then you get to the allegations itself. Now, guys, there's apparently these text messages that got released. Now, guys, I got some of this from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, roughly 2 minutes. Sargon kind of broke this down very, very well. Of course, we're getting to the last stretch of the video. But there's a lot here that, quite frankly, I think people are missing in this entire situation, and a lot of people are not actually thinking about that, quite frankly, can be very, very easily explained.
This is essentially the smoking gun. Now, you'll notice that there's a weird, if you look at the blue line, the blue block, and you go along the line on the side, you'll notice there's a weird sort of mismatch there, where it looks like it's been stitched together. But I'm not saying that this is fake, because I don't think this is fake. I think it would be too stupid for them to fake this. I think they've just had where it's on a phone screen and screenshotted and then stitched it together afterwards to make
someone in Photoshop
done a better job. But okay, but I'm not saying that this is fake or Photoshop, because I don't think it is, to be honest. Can we zoom out on that again? Just so we can see the whole thing. So yeah, as you can see, right, she's complaining that basically what she thinks is, well, what she says is that she went to his house and then he grabbed her, had sex with her when she didn't want to, without using a condom. And
this is the second time?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the second time.
This
it's a consequent time. It's not the first time she went.
I think this is the time that she accuses where she came over, he answered the door naked, said there was another girl in the house.
Yeah, she didn't want to have a threesome.
But then the actual text is vague enough that it reads like he could have just taken the condom off during it, which she also alleges it happening. So it reads like it could be connecting two separate incidents. This is, I'm not alleging she's making it up, and I'm not alleging that he hasn't done it. I'm just saying the fact that the lack of evidence raises questions here means that it's basically impossible to believe.
Possibly, to be honest with you, I'm more inclined to believe that this is probably as she describes it, because he apologizes afterwards. As you can see there, I am very sorry. I'll make this up to you, blah. And it's like, okay, yeah, this I think could be considered to be a strong allegation against him, right? Sure.
Yep, and lock him up.
Strong allegation, sure. If there's any evidence for it as well, as Callum said, lock him up. But also,
it was over a decade ago, and you obviously didn't want to go further with it.
Also, this is the only thing that's been provided. It is out of context, and he could have just been conciliatory for some unrelated thing.
Possibly, but I'm not prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt on this. I think that she went over there with the intention of having sex with him. He had sex with her, but in a way that she wasn't happy with. And so, yes, you could call that rape, right? You could call that rape. And she, what?
Did you?
Yeah, I think so.
Legally?
Yeah, I think so.
Technically now, yes.
Sargon did not assert that these things were fake. He didn't actually come out and say that they were. He did not come out and actually say that the actual text messages were. But it's really funny, given everything that's going on here, exactly how hard that they're going to go after him. Okay? I mean, it really is weird exactly how it is that they're kind of like pulling, they're doing a lot of gymnastics to get him. So I went and checked on somebody else who was talking about this, the aristocratic utensil. Make sure you guys watch all the way through.
By multiple sources. And on the original text, there's missing timestamps and it's clipped, so it does kind of look sus to say the least. But Barnes himself points to the fact that the text says, "I pride myself on being safe and making the right decisions. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed." I think she meant to say pride, not pry. You can always tell a quality lass when she writes you with the letter instead of the word, but anyway. Not to mention, if you look at the Times article here, oh look, we have a list of totally not misappropriated quotes from Russell's own book that was definitely not deliberately chosen to sow doubt in the readers' minds and add a sense of credibility to these allegations where there are none. See, in this day and age, whenever this BS gets pulled, two things you should always ask about and keep in mind: the timing and known affiliations. Because you may as well ask, what's their politics like? Well, they're massively skeptical of that. Okay, hit piece, got it. Because I know...
Seems like it's pretty well effective. I mean, it seems like it would be a very, very effective strategy. It's going to be a very, very effective way of going about it, given his past promiscuity. But the thing is this right here, if you actually look closer, if you actually dig into it a little bit closer, you will see exactly what lengths they went to kind of fabricate this entire facade. Yes, I am actually standing with Russell Brand on this. I am actually standing with the man here because it looks to me like this entire thing has been completely manufactured. And there are other things. Check it out.
Dark alley ambushing unsuspecting women. It's a woman who's in a relationship with him and they had sex in a way that she didn't want. And he apologized. I assume that she continued seeing him afterwards and she let it go. As you say, she didn't press charges or anything like that. So, okay. What's happening here? Well, these women who, I mean, whoever they are, know that Russell Brand is Russell Brand.
The really red flag thing that came up for me was the 16-year-old girl
who
had alleged it. So obviously she came forward. It wasn't her name and her face and identity were withheld, but she actually sat through it and gave it. My concern is that towards the end of the documentary for the full Channel 4 thing, they then said, so they'd met when she was meeting a friend in Leicester Square in the building where MTV was housed. And she said, okay, well, he offered me a date there and he took me out and that. One, who are the people around this girl if she is 16, failing her to such an extent where she goes on repeated dates with 30-year-old men that pick her up on that? Is there no building security? Is there no logs? Why have we not provided this evidence? But at the end of the documentary, they say, Alice, they dubbed her, who now works for Channel 4. So the girl making the smoking gun allegation now works for the exact same TV station that's running this that used to employ Russell Brand. That seems like a conflict of interest.
Also, what legal action could have been taken? Because 16 is in the age of majority, right?
Yes.
So even if everyone was like, look, I think that's wrong, which it would have been, like there's nothing legally anyone could have done.
I think
so. You mean to tell me that Channel 4, the girl who did the documentary, the girls who were accusing him, at one point in time, one of the main ones now works for Channel 4. Wow. I mean, you look. When you see stuff like this right here, you automatically get the conclusion that this entire story is probably a load of BS. Guys, I've talked about this before when it comes to the topic of younger women. I don't want to go too young. I don't ever want to do that because obviously I think some life experience is needed, but then again, you don't want to go too old and you definitely don't want to get somebody who's got an extremely high body count. But you're talking about 16-year-old girls, young girls who, quite frankly, were actually in relationships with him. And even though his behavior was inappropriate, he was doing this stuff in relationships. Now, like I said, I'm not promoting this. If anything, I should probably be condemning how he does things. But he is obviously in a relationship with a lot of these ladies. By the way, why are these 16-year-old girls getting involved with him in the first place? Now, I understand the law in England at that time basically said that 16 years was of legal age. But still at the same time, something about this entire situation just seems a little off. That, my friends, is the main reason why it is that nobody, and I mean nobody, is fully buying the story. You see, the power of propaganda is in fact very powerful. But after a while, once you see the propaganda, once you see it constantly thrown in your face, after a while, people start to realize that the propaganda does not meet the reality. And when you begin getting lied to by the mainstream media or other organizations for a long time, you begin to start questioning them, and then you start to actually look into them. And then you start to see that these people, for the most part, are in fact completely dishonest. And given the fact that Me Too found a way to basically create so many cases that quite frankly should never have existed or should never have gone any further than they did because they were mostly bogus, you got to ask yourself a question. Why are so many people tuning this out, and why are so many people not believing this? Well, it's your past as a media organization. It's your past as a whole. It's the fact that we've got all this corruption going on. It's the fact that we've got all this BS going on right now. And people, quite frankly, don't have any trust in their institutions or government, and definitely not in their media. And you wonder why it is that people are standing with Mr. Brand on this. And I mean, that right there is really and truly the only thing I can tell you on that topic. You know, you guys kind of did it to yourselves. Now, I've already told you guys how I feel. I think this entire thing is a great big giant smear campaign, especially given the fact that he's very, very anti-establishment. And I've already told you that I believe that a lot of this crap right here is being ginned up because, quite frankly, he's a mark given his promiscuous past. But I also think the man genuinely has changed. And you've also got these people out there who are saying that, oh, he went away and he decided to plan this entire following with Brand X and all this type of crap here. He decided to do that so that way he could have some form of cover against these type of allegations because he knew this day was coming. I have a hard time believing that. Maybe I'm naive, but I quite frankly have a very, very hard time believing that there, and given the nature of our government, given the nature of how the left operates, given the nature of how the media operates, I'm sorry, but I got to go ahead and say it. I don't believe anything you guys say. So yeah, I'm going to stand with Mr. Brand. With that right there, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Please consider subscribing. Please hit the notifications bell so that way you guys are notified when the videos come out. Also, something else too, guys, make sure you guys also leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts. Share the video, pass it around to your friends, and I'll see you guys later.